Boom, boom, ba, boom,
Move it up.
ba.
Oh, here's your
Recording. And can we say what the question is that Akiva's were looking at?
What Akiva is asking is the Yin from Kabbalah say Malchus Shemayim synonymous, essentially, this is what he said, with Atzmos. So I pointed to the text where the fourth line from the top it says Hainu mitzad koyach hamitzava shebimitzvos. The Yin from Kabbalah say Malchus Shemayim is in order to incorporate the mitzvah, in order to recognize the mitzvah element in mitzvahs. I realized afterwards, the difficulty that we had over here. Surely I took a little too much for granted. And there are two factors. One is that what I said, and the other is that I was still learning this as if we were in the middle of a parenthesis and we're looking for the end of the parenthesis. So I had decided we have to settle down and say, this is exactly what we're learning. Whether it's a parenthetical, not parenthetical, we have to focus in and get it in full focus. And therefore, I'm going to go back to the top of the page and focus in and digest every word that we're learning. The first thing that we have to get some kind of perspective and understand what we are talking about when you say Rotzon. And we're saying that, as we're going to see, that there are different levels in Rotzon. The Rotzon is before it's Nisgala and after it's Nisgala. And also, as we mentioned at the very end, it seems that Rotzon is an inherent reality with Etzem. It is not something that Etzem possesses. I'm sure you remember that discussion. It's daring almost to identify Rotzon within Atzmos. But just for the sake of our understanding, so we'll have some kind of a perception what we're talking about. The primary element of Rotzon and I'm going to go down to the very mundane, to the very lowest level of Rotzon. There's an expression in Hasidus, I think I mentioned it here. An expression in Hasidus, Kol dover roitze b'kiyumai. Did I ever mention it here? Kol dover roitze b'kiyumai. Everything, once that it should persist, that it should continue to exist. Wants to continue to exist. And this Kol dover roitze b'kiyumai applies, of course, to the human being, but it applies to everything that exists. What's the significance of this roitze b'kiyumai? Where does a tree get the rotzon b'kiyumai? Where does a cat get the rotzon b'kiyumai? Where does a rock get the rotzon b'kiyumai? What does it mean, called over roitze b'kiyumai? The principle is, clearly there's a vast difference between all the things that I mentioned all the way down to the rock. There's an enormously vast difference. But there is also is commonality, also a similarity. Most we'll be able to relate to it much more clearly by the human being, and then from that we can project to everything else. The principle that Roitze B'Kiyumi in the human being, the fundamental Rotzein, and as we pointed out, a Rotzein is not a want. Rotzein has no ingredients. There's no causes. What is Rotzein? Rotzein in the human being is that he wants to be who he is. He wants to be what he is. There's the reality of the human being, and there's the Rotzein. He wants to be whatever he is. To take an extremely superficial illustration, a person, and I said, on the most superficial level, he relates to every part of himself. He relates to his nose, to his eyes, to his hair, to his chin, to his hand, to his foot. He wouldn't want it to be any other way. It doesn't mean that he's got the most agile and most capable hand, but that's his hand. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want any other. As the famous saying is that when Mashiach will come, and everybody will want to unload their peklach, as the expression is, they will run to the public dump and take their pekel and throw their pekel right in there, on top of all the other pekel. And then they start examining, looking for an exchange pekel. They look until they finally they run right quickly, pick up their own. Where is this come from? Please understand. Try to really think. Where does this come from? This does not come as the scientists and the Adventists will suggest, kiyume for persistence, for survival. No, that's not what it is. He wants it because he identifies with it. And why does he identify with it? Because there's a godly element. God wants this exactly the way it is. There's a reality to it, beyond the individual's experience, beyond the individual understanding. There's a godly reality in everything, in every detail in existence. This is what he wants. I want to connect to this godly reality. Doesn't want it any other way. That's the only reality that he can relate to. This is want. That's why I say this want is part and parcel of the entity itself. He wants what he is. This craziness, again, we live in a world, choose who you're going to be and then go through some kind of a corrective operation. And this is out of whack. This is totally out of whack, living in an artificial reality. You'll never find yourself. You find yourself in the eyes of others, not in your own eyes. You won't recognize yourself. Ever. Using this analogy, go back Lamaila, go back to Etzem. For lack of for the sake that we should be able to kind of hold on to something, we have to say this. The Eibishter wants himself. Just the way he is. He is. There's no is. This infinity, this profound truth, the Eibishter wants it. This rotzin, this wanting, the Eibishter chose to reveal it. What does it mean to reveal it? That this reality, this God's reality, should be reflected, should be recognized externally, and should be reflected in creation. First, it will be created in Oyer, that it is a creation of Oyer, Etzem Oyer, and then ultimately in creation.
This is a way to understand how the rock wants, let's say, B'kiyumai.
Yeah,
Originating from his will to...
Yeah, that's what this is. God will that the rock should be a rock, and that is what he wants.
Why is it Dafka the Rotzon that he wants to reveal in the world? In other words,
Because the Rotzon is reflective of himself. He wants to be himself. When he's revealing himself.
you can't say that he's revealing himself. Not the. In other words, not the. Can't reveal the essence. There's nothing.
No, revealing has to be, to reveal, you have to be able to look at yourself and reveal it. The self itself cannot be revealed.
Self cannot. This is as close as we can get to him revealing.
That's why you say Hashem wants himself, and you don't say to be.
Right.
But in the revelation
has to be, like we said, in Oyer. In other words, in his presence. In himself, that the self that he doesn't reveal, that it doesn't get revealed.
The wanting is the awareness. The Rotzon is nothing before the Rotzon. In other words,
yes, wanting is the awareness, the knowing himself and wanting himself.
That's all. It's all together.
It's all one thing.
Is this for our ear?
Huh?
Is this for our ear that we put it in this language?
This is only for our ear, because we have no truth access. And this is the best. This is the way for us to relate to these terms over here. Yes, it is for our ear. Remember that, okay? Don't start imagining God sitting there and wanting something. This is why, yes, there's an inherent rotzin in everything, because everything is ultimately reflects the fact that God wanted it to be. Therefore, there's a truth to it. And the greatest revelation of that want, the most direct, the most clear revelation of that, is in the human being. In the human being, the Eibishter has created an entity that really reflects his own truth. That we spoke about, the human being, he's got ownership. He can own a piece of property. Not just hold on to it, but to own it. A sense of reality. I won't touch your property, not because it will hurt you, because you protest, because it's yours. That's the Torah. That's the mitzvah of Torah. Mitzvah Torah. piece of property is owned by a person. And as nature goes, his sins are ceased. His grandchildren don't even know that this property used to be his. The whole record is lost. It's still his. And the halach is very concerned about it. We can't violate this truth. God wants it to be his. Doesn't mean God because it's his for real. It's still his. And when you take it, it's not that you are hurting somebody, you're violating somebody's rights. None. You're violating the godly truth in the world.
We're not just talking about land in Eretz Yisrael, we're talking about anywhere.
Anywhere, yes.
If you buy a piece of property, make a kinyan, and go through all the halachic procedures for acquiring property, it stays yours forever until you choose to sell it.
That's right.
Or transfer it to somebody.
Yeah.
There could, but that means that there could be.
Small.
Okay. I own Europe.
Huh?
I own Europe. we own pieces of Europe.
Okay, small. Okay, so now these mitzvahs, the mitzvahs, like you say, mitzvahs. An example of mitzvahs is respect somebody else's property. As an example.
So that was the meaning. At the end of the minor, ownership is shmoy nikro.
That's right.
The page ownership.
That's right. So, respect somebody's property. This is an easy example. Okay. Every mitzvah has that element, but it's not easy for us. This is the easiest thing to relate. This Ayin, respect somebody's property, is reflective of the Rotzin Elyon, of the Gili HaRotzin. Because he chose to reveal the Rotzin, this is why it exists in so to speak, in existence, in creation. So mitzvahs, this is what we're saying.
So I just spaced out there. This last sentence you said, I'll come back.
Okay, let's go inside. I'm going back to the top of the page. Okay. The question now is the pointed question: what is the supremacy of tshuva over all the mitzvahs? Since all the mitzvahs are rooted in atzmus, in the mitzvah ha-mitzvahs, not rooted. This is the central theme of the mitzvah, to do what the mitzvah ha-mitzvahs wants. Not the benefit of the mitzvah, but the mitzvah. So what's the difference between tshuva and other mitzvahs? B'yesh. The explanation is as follows. The whole ha-mitzvah is, all the mitzvahs, harei hamshochoson v'giluyon lamato. Please translate these words for yourselves. Hamshochoson, they are drawing down, v'giluyon, and their revelation, lamato hi below. How do they find a place here below in this world? Ho mi bechinas gili harotzin. It is from the aspect of gili harotzin, the expressed rotzin. Okay, so let us translate this in as practical and sense as possible. You can take somebody's property. Are you destroying the property? Are you nullifying its existence? You're not. What are you affecting? What are you affecting? Shmuel, please. What are you affecting?
What are you affected by what?
Ownership. Taking someone's property?
Yeah. What are you affecting? A rotzin. The presence of rotzin. I said, called over Eitze B'Kiyumi. Why? Because there's a rotzing. The Eibishter wants that this should be. Not affecting Yitzhak. Why am I losing you all of a sudden?
I must what the question is. I mean,
We skip. You're offending his truth. And the reason why he has a truth is because the Eibishter reveals his who he is.
Right. So now I'm going to the simplest level. You take somebody's property. You missed that, right?
yeah.
You take somebody's property. Have you destroyed anything?
No.
Formality, in reality, nothing happened. What have you violated? What have you offended? The godly will. You have essentially stated like this. Follow this. We can take and understand very simply. You have made a statement. There is no primary reason, will, that the world should conduct itself in any particular way. It's a hefker.
He's ignoring the presence of the.
In the presence of the Rotze, doesn't have to be anyway. It's all circumstantial. It's all happenstance. So you go and you take it. And it's going to be happenstance yours for as long as you protect it. So what are you denying, so to speak? What are you affecting? The Rotze and the presence of the Rotze. It is true, of course, that this Rotze has a root in Erzema Rotze. And that is rooted in the mitzvah, in the reality itself. But what do you have here, the Hamshocha in the world? The Rotze. Because if this were the presence of the mitzvah Rotze, then if you violate it, it would cease to exist. Just as we said, again on the end of Hemshech, we said that if the reaction to any misconduct would come directly from the mitzvah, from the melech, there would be no punishment. There would be annihilation. The whole process of punishment, compensate to the act and all that, considering the circumstance and all that, that is from the Rotze, from the oil. But the mitzvah can't relate to the whole thing. It's either or. It's either true or it's not. Okay? So that's what he says. The whole ha-mitzvahs hariyam shechosim v'giluyon lamato. They're drawing the mitzvahs downward, and to be megal the mitzvahs he below him b'chinas gilui horotzin is from the aspect of gilui horotzin, of expressing the rotzin, not the essence of the rotzin. It's the rotzin as it is begilui. U'ma sheyesh bo zeh.
Why should the Gilui Ratzon be on such a reduced level then? The Ratzon represents the reality of the reality. In other words, the Gilui is that the reality, that Hashem's reality is now being, he wants to reduce it to the level of
Gilui means a ha'ara. Gilui means the functional aspect of something, not the essence. Like we just now said, called over Eitze B'Kiyumi. That's such a subtle thing. It's not even real. But it's reflected. We went back today to the top of the page again. The second line, Uma sheyesh bo zeh koyach hametzave, and the fact that within this mitzvah, in this Gilui HaRotzen, there is koyach hametzave, because that's what Rotzen is. As we said, the origin of Rotzen is that he wants his own truth. So therefore, in this Rotzen, there is a koyach hametzave. It's reflective of the fact that there is a mitzvah, ha-mitzvahs. Ha-reise behelem. But that is behelem. What you have is the Gilui HaRotzen. This is the way it should be. But it's not, the categorical truth of it is hidden. This is why you can go and take somebody's property and think, hey, there's no consequence, nothing happened. Because all you violated is a Gilui HaRotzen. You didn't, so to speak, violate the Etzem HaRotzen or the Mitzvah himself. Project a situation. We're going to see by Kabbalah say Bachus Shemayim, so this is kind of a similar thing. The Melech issues a decree. Do not eat this. And this decree is issued throughout the land. It's announced over every place. All the walls are posted. The Melech, the king says, don't eat this. And somebody is 1,000 miles away, behind him, in his own chambers, can't control himself and picks up a little thing and eats. Compare that to somebody standing in the king's palace, in the throne room, and eating it. So the one at a distance, he violated the decree. The one in the Melech violates the Melech himself. He's not going to last a second. So this is in mitzvahs there is koyach hametzave, of course, but there is a behelem. V'zehu, and thus, this is pointing to the following: that we know the cloud that should be mitzvahs, that in mitzvahs tzorich kabol osei u'malchus shemayim. In mitzvahs, it's not enough that you obey the mitzvah. There has to be Kabbalah Shem Machashayim. Prior to that, there has to be the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. In other words, acceptance, rulership, submissiveness. Ukemaimer, as the statement is, Kablu Malchusi B'Hakach Kablu Zereisa. Accept my kingdom, my kingship, my rulership, my reign. And afterwards, accept my gzeres, my decrees. Why? I don't have to add them because the Rebbe himself finishes it. Ukamaymer, and also as it's saying is, Loma Kodma, as we explained yesterday, Loma Kodma, why do we precede Pasha Shema before V'hoyim Shemeya? Sheikabel Olari Machus Shemayim Tchila, in order that he should be accepting Oil Machus Shemayim Tchila. It has to be Oil Machus Shemayim first. Why? Why can't he just say, I was told not to do this, I'm not going to do this? Because I think it's good to obey what was said. Or it's probably a good idea. Probably the right thing. If the doctor said, don't eat it, I'm not going to eat it. Not because I'm obedient to the doctor, but because the doctor said I shouldn't eat it. I have to be stupid to eat. And yet that's not enough. Says first you have to be kabel machus. And that is the process through which we have the mitzvahs in the full sense. That is why mitzad koyach hamitzvah shebe mitzvahs. Because in order to relate and to bring out, to relate to the koyach hamitzvah shebe mitzvahs, tzorich list kabbalah say machas umayim tchilo. There has to be kabbalah say machas umayim.
So, but to be Mekai mitzvahs mitzad gili aratzin without kabbalah soil.
Right.
So this would be that I'm Mekai the mitzvah because I appreciate the godly reality of the world. It's not.
No, I appreciate the wisdom, the godly wisdom, the godly goodness.
I thought it was gili aratzin.
Yeah, Ratzin.
The Inyan Eliki in the world. Bala Ratzin would mean the categorical reality that's not a ha'ara.
That's right.
Where it comes from.
That's right.
But to be Mekayim Tzad Gili Aratzin is to focus in on the Inyan Eliki.
You come into my home. And my home is designed in a certain way. The table stands in one place, the chairs, whatever it is designed in a certain way. This is designed according to my aesthetical view of things. I think this is nice.
That would be Gili Aratzin.
That's Gili Aratzin. So you come in and you say, okay, this is nice, this is how you like this, it looks nice. I'm not going to violate this.
That seems like more chitzonius.
Yeah, that's right, a Gili Aratzin, that's a chitzonius.
But, I mean, that doesn't seem like Ratzin.
What?
That doesn't seem like Ratzin.
It is Ratzin, it's chitzonius Ratzin. Ratzin, what's an aesthetic view of things? It's reflective of how a person senses things. That's why in mitzvahs there has to be kabbalah seil machas umayim tchila, in order to bring into the mitzvah its full impact. But the mikol, but yet still, iker ha-mitzvah, the principle of the mitzvah itself, he bechinas gili harotz. The mitzvah is gili harotz. This is why, again, it's possible to violate the mitzvah, and there is no direct, immediate consequence. Because it's only gili harotz, it's only the oil, the ha'orah. Akiva, you seem to be.
No, I'm trying to. It's like the Ikra. It's like this is how the Eibishter brought it to us in this way.
That's right, exactly right. The Eibishter brought it to us in the form of gili harotz.
The Eibishter wanted it, so to speak, that his reality be revealed. Yet this is the mitzvahs themselves. If they're looked at only by themselves, that would not accomplish it. It has to be that the mitzvah, but that's the only way we could take it.
Listen. The mitzvahs do accomplish it in terms of what the rotzim is, but not the mitzvah harotz. Not the mitzvah harotz.
But not the mitzvah harotz. But the rotzim.
In other words, again, you come into my home, and you start moving chairs around. It says, oh, I like it this way. Okay? So, we have a debate. I like it this way, you like it this way. But you're forgetting one principle. This is my home. When you come to move chairs around in my home?
Just that we said in the beginning that the Eibishter wanted to reveal this Ratzin, that he wanted to. He has you explained that has a rotzon, he wants what he is, so to speak. Okay, and then he wants to reveal that.
Right.
But that's not accomplished by this. Because that's not accomplished simply by
relation
doing.
is accomplished.
It is accomplished by
The
simply.
relation with the rotzon is accomplished, not himself, not his own presence. His own presence has to be recognized as a presence. That's what Kabbalah says about Shemayim.
Why is that not Iker?
Why?
Why is Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim not the Iker?
No, the Iker HaMitzvah. Iker HaMitzvah. I'm not saying this is the Iker. The Iker HaMitzvah. In the mitzvah, this is the Iker. This is it for this morning. Have a good day. Yeah, hopefully we are back on track. Have a good day. We are going to Dapu now.
We're back on track till tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hopefully we won't come in with a wiped out brain tomorrow morning.
You know what, Joseph?
Wiped out brains, you know, that we was totally under the yoke of the world.
Yeah, here, look. dailyconsider.blogspot.com.
I was afraid you said this is enough. You're a brave guy to come back.
This is the Gilui.
That's the Gilui. That's the Chitzonius. But ultimately, he wants that he saying this Mitzvah HaMitzvahs. This is a different thing.
This is different. Through the mitzvahs, ultimately you get to that, but that's a different thing.
This all Kabbalah Salmach Shemaim. It's a different thing.
It's a different thing.
It's not Gilui Ratzah. It's not Gilui Ratzah.
This is Gilui Ratzah.